Sliders, Season 2, Episode Dino Veritas. I'm not sure how to say that. I don't speak Latin. So, this was Sliders' very first dinosaur episode. They've only had two. This is probably like one of the closest things you'll have to Jurassic Park and, like, say, a television show around that era. Now there was this one syndicated show, I forget what it's called. Um I really forgot what it's called. I can't even think of not a single word in the title. But I remember there was a blonde woman, like a jungle woman. There was a man with a hat who's like a relic hunter type person, and a bunch of other people, and they was kind of like in this lost land, and I think it had dinosaurs. I want to say something with an A. Arthur Cohen something or another. I can't remember. It was syndicated in the late 90s. And I think it had a dinosaur. I remember seeing in the intro. I think I tried to watch that show one time. I just could not get into it. But anyway, this is one of my all-time favorite episodes. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? Like, seriously, people love dinosaurs. A creature that was around billions of years ago that we'll never see again, and hopefully never will. And hopefully scientists will not try to recreate one. Although they are still trying their best with the whole dire wolf thing. Look, I ain't for that crap. All right. These creatures died out for a reason. Natural selection. Nature selected it, so let it stay extinct. I feel bad. It would be cool to see it, but no, 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 no. Because, like, I think what they did, they somehow they re-engineered the DNA and put it in a completely different wolf, I think. Look, I'm afraid Jurassic Park might really happen in real life, all right? Because they're trying to do the woolly mammoth or something like that. And why? Why would you do something like that? It's like, look, man, I get it. You're a nerd, you're a geek. This makes you happy, but there's other things that can make you happy too. So go do that. And I mean, like, seriously, almost everybody loves dinosaurs. That's why, like, in Super Sentai, and also they always, like, always go back to, like, dinosaur themes. And that's why Power Rangers have so many dinosaur themes. People just love dinos. And this came out during the perfect time because Jurassic Park came out just a few years ago. And Jurassic Park, the very first one, was a massive hit. I love that movie to death. It is still the best one in the entire franchise. Now, personally, I love the second one as well. A lot of people don't because they don't like the idea of the ending with the T-Rex running through, like, the streets. But hey, why have dinosaurs in a movie if they're not going to do that? You know what I'm saying? You have to think about the real world implications and stuff. After the second movie, I hate every other movie that came after it. The third movie just felt like a filler TV episode. The Jurassic World movies with Chris Pratt was like crap. I'm sorry, but it's like, get your continuity straight. How do you have three movies and the continuity is different, and especially in the last two? Like, it reminds me of the days of Resident Evil when almost every sequel that came out contradicted the one that came out before. Also with the X-Men movies and, like, Highlander movies, get your continuity in order and everything. Speaking of Highlander, in case you didn't know, Henry Cavill is supposed to play the new Highlander in the Highlander reboot movie if it ever gets made. And also, some MCU, like, Doomsday pictures just got leaked of Wolverine holding Jean Grey. And in case you didn't know this, Kevin Feige said he's gonna reboot after Avengers something. Secret Wars, I think, where some people are going to get recast and others are going to stay the same because they're going to blend in and combine this whole multiverse like universe together and stuff. So, like, back to sliders and everything. So, like, yeah, I just don't like the Chris Pratt, like, Jurassic World movies. I just don't. Like, they made Chris Pratt invincible. There's no way that man could have survived any of those movies. And there's no way he can outrun a dinosaur. Like, I'm sorry. And jump off a cliff. And no. I don't like those movies. So this episode is basically the closest thing I can get to like a Jurassic Park like trilogy and everything. And I'll take it because, I love the premise of this episode for a lot of different reasons. Like, first, the whole truth caller thing. That was just fun in itself. And then there is the whole how in the world are dinosaurs still around in the 20th century when this show came out. Now, of course, it's the 21st century. And the way they came up with it was kind of interesting, you know what I'm saying? Like, Wade assumed that, like, maybe the comet or asteroid missed Earth or something like that. And, like, they survived, but then it turns out, no, there's another reason why they survived. Now, there's some interesting tidbits about this episode. First, there's like a deleted scene. They wanted to get Geraldo Rivera, I think his name is, to like be like the news anchor dude for this episode. And I think he was supposed to get like eaten by a dinosaur, but for whatever reason they didn't get him, which I'm kind of glad because I don't really like when real life celebrities guest star on shows like this sometimes, it's just fun when they make up their own person or whatever. Like in that Egghead episode, and they had like the rappers and stuff. Like that was pretty funny in itself. And I believe Sticky Fingers I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I looked this up. I believe he might have been one of the rappers, and he went on to play Blade in the television series. I didn't like that show either. And so, like, supposedly they were supposed to like get him. Also, Quinn is missing from this episode a lot. And that's because Jerry O'Connell was filming the movie Jerry Maguire. I've never seen that movie, like never. I've never been really a big movie goer. I've always been more of a television person. And it's funny that two of the lead stars from that movie have basically ruined their careers because of their personal lives and everything. That's Hollywood for you. But yeah, it's like Jerry was missing for the majority of this episode, which made it just that more interesting. Sure, it's fun to have Quinn Mallory on the show, but there's the fear of, oh no, like what happened to him? Did he get eaten? Is he gonna get lost? Is he gonna miss the slide? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just adds that extra bit of oomph to your excitement. Now, one of the things that, like I said before, I loved about this episode was the truth callers. However, one of the things I really wish they could have done in this episode was actually take us to that world and keep us on that world that had the truth callers. That world was basically shown in like the teaser before like the intro. So we got a tiny little tidbit of that world, but we didn't get enough. Could you imagine spending an entire 40 something minutes on a world where people are constantly lying and getting zapped? Come on, that would have been awesome. Rembrandt and the professor would have like just been electrocuted and everything because they could not stop telling lies all in this episode. Pretty much everybody got zapped, I believe, except for Quinn. And that's because he was missing for the majority of the episode. And when he did have to call on, he didn't tell no lies. But like, and then what's also bugging is that this episode was filmed out, well, it was aired out of order. On broadcast television, this came out before the, what was it called? Post slide syndrome, something like that, where like what was it, postmodern slide syndrome. It was something where Rembrandt went to a psychiatrist and basically just like ranted for a while because he thought he was home at first, and then it turns out he wasn't. And then there was the two like professors, and they don't know which one slid. So broadcast wise, that episode aired after this one. But but that episode actually aired before this one. So the $1 million question is, if the post episode where like, the double professors and everything aired before this one, why in the freak nuts didn't nobody ask the professor, hey, which one are you and everything? Like, seriously, like that's just the most simplest question they could have asked and never did. And it doesn't matter if the episode aired out of order, because when they still filmed it, it was supposed to go before that one. So why didn't they ask that? And then that could just put all this like, speculation to like rest, because they never answered that question and everything. I still don't get it. But, I guess one good thing about not being on the truth world is like, because they made Quinn from a different Earth in season 4, if he was to say he was born on that Earth, then that will contradict it when they get to the season 4. So that's kind of a good thing, I guess you could say. But basically, the professor and like Quinn, they're talking and everything. And Quinn couldn't believe how many lies the professor told and everything, which shouldn't be surprising, because when you go on other worlds and there's another professor, that other professor always normally turns out to be evil and everything. In fact, I think every single last one of them was evil and lies and everything. So that shouldn't be too surprising. Now, Rembrandt, he was busy with a lady friend. And I was wondering at first if this was one of the past women we seen him with in the past. But no, this is a completely different actress and stuff. In fact, this was this actress like second acting role and everything. She's retired now. She's only had like a handful of like, appearances. I believe her name is Marcy. I can't think of her last name. It might be Melissa, something like that, or something along that line. But like, it's one of his lady friends he met on that Earth, and of course he got zapped talking about, he wishes he could spend more time with her or the rest of his life, but some crap like that. Because of course Rembrandt is a player, a smooth talking man who, has multiple lady friends, and even his best sweet talk couldn't get past like the lie detector test and everything. But in comes Wade. And I was wondering, like, where is Wade? And by the way, Sabrina is looking extra cute in this episode. I don't know what she did to herself, but she's looking extra cute in this episode. She got slight highlights in her hair, different from that of season 3. And there's just something glowing about her. And so I noticed that like when the lady, Rembrandt's friend, was like, driving the car, she had gloves on. I'm thinking, whoa, she must be like rich or fancy because she got a convertible. But no, when you look at everybody else, they're wearing thick coats and gloves because it's winter over in Canada. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that when it's winter, they're dressing in winter clothes. Sometimes some shows don't do that, like Supergirl. She just kept on wearing that skirt. But then other times it kind of backfires because, okay, I don't know if y'all are familiar with this show that I grew up on in the 90s on Fox Kids called Goosebumps. Love that show. And so Disney Plus made a reboot of it, which I cannot stand. And in the second season of the rebooted version, It's supposed to be I think summertime, and everybody's wearing coats, and it's kind of like, why? Oh, that's right, they're filming in Canada, and it's cold. So yeah, and so like she comes in and she said, there's a huge, like she made a huge mistake. Like she was at an art gallery and some guy started hitting her up on a bunch of questions. Now it's interesting that she said she was at an art gallery because if you know anything about Sabrina Lloyd now, she does tons of paintings and she's very, very, very good at it. Who knew she was an artist and everything? But anyway, so the guy at hard copy and everything wanted to know where she was from. So she could not tell a lie. So she had to say she's from a parallel Earth. She could have just said she's from San Francisco. That would have that technically would have been the truth and everything, and she wouldn't get zapped. However, we don't know what the city or state or country is called in this world. So there could have been a possibility where there is no San Francisco and everything. So everybody's a little annoyed by her, and here comes like the news reporter dude wanting to shake everybody's hand and ask them questions. And it's neat that people are actually believing that they are sliders because the guy said he had to see it from himself. Well, she's telling the truth because she didn't get zapped. So he got the light display, he got to see them slide, and that was kind of cool. And it always makes me wonder, when people do see them slide, do people ever just tell people and tell scientists of that world, would they ever create it? This could have been the perfect time to have spin-off shows of this show back in the late 90s if they would have thought that. However, because of ratings and everything, they just didn't want to go that route. Now, before they slid, we got to see them in the park. And the great thing about this scene is that, I love the attention to detail because they're in the park, and in the background of the park, you can see a city, like a full-blown city, skyscrapers, everything, maybe a little lake or something like that too. Because when they go on to the next world and they slide, it's just all woods and everything. And so if you don't know, because back in those days, you didn't know the name of the title before the intro came on. I don't know if they did a preview before the next episode or not, but if you went in blind, you just would assume that, hey, they're in the woods and there are no architecture, buildings, nothing like that. Maybe they're primitive or something like that. Maybe they live in huts or something like that. So you assume everything's normal until Quinn, no, not Quinn, but Wade, she falls on an egg and her hand goes through it. Quinn, he knows straight up, yo, this is an egg, but what kind of egg is it? It's pretty freaking big. It can't be no ostrich egg or nothing like that. And so, all of a sudden, they start to hear some rustling, some noises, and I think the dinosaur appears and everything. And it's holy crap, there are dinosaurs on this world. Now, I gotta give it up to the special effects team on this episode. About 95% of the time, this dinosaur looked pretty freaking good, man. It didn't look as good as the ones from Jurassic Park because they were not practical mixed in with CGI. This thing was all CGI, and it had some good depth to it. Now, there was times where there was a little bit of shininess and a little bit of flatness, especially when it ran. But other than that, it was pretty freaking believable for a show in the late 90s or mid 90s with barely no budget and everything. They did a phenomenal job, and it's an Allosaurus. The first time in my life I've ever heard of an Allosaurus and everything. I assumed it was just a T-Rex. I mean, come on now, everybody does. And so they kind of get separated a little bit. The professor, he hurts his ankle and everything, and they pretty much make their way into a cave where they will spend the remainder of the episode, except for Quinn, who is missing. And I'm also giving props to the stage production team because the cave looked pretty freaking real too. I thought it was a real cave. Heck, it might be, but I doubt it is because it's not a good idea to film in a cave. But like it looked pretty like convincing and everything. And so like you do start to wonder, okay, there's dinosaurs here. Are there like cave people too? But most likely not, because I think people, we know for a fact people appeared millions of years later after dinosaurs and everything. But of course, people are probably thinking of the Flintstones or that one sitcom show on ABC called Dinosaurs. Remember that? And so this is where they will spend the remainder of the episode. It saves on the budget, and that's a good thing. Um, and they realize, crap, they lost the timer, which the professor said, "Great Scott." This tells you just how old this show is. Because you will not hear nobody in the modern time use that, or and especially on television. You don't even really hear it in like British slang from a show depicted from many years ago. Maybe if you're watching like a Sherlock Holmes type show, you'll hear that then. And if you're watching like an old Adam West Batman show, you'll hear it then. But other than that, you ain't gonna hear Great Scott unless you watch Back to the Future, which it really makes you think how outdated this show is and how outdated we all are. And my God, do I miss the 90s. I don't care what nobody says. I might have been born in the 80s, but like throughout my like little kiddie years and everything, but like from my kid and teen years, and I'm a 90s kid, you know what I'm saying? And 90s was the best freaking decade ever. I don't care what people are saying about the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 90s was where it's at. It's where things started to get on track. Where individuality was really coming out. Clothes were really good, music was good, movies and television was good. I don't know about the food because I didn't eat out back then, but I didn't start to eat out when I went out to until I went to college. But like, not everything was perfect, in the 90s. There was still slight racism and everything. Like, but they was getting out of like those racist like days of like the 60s, 50s, and 70s. The 80s kind of turned that around a little bit. I mean, there was still bad stuff going on, but it wasn't as bad as those other decades. And because I was a kid and teenager, I didn't pay attention to politics. I mean, the only thing about politics I knew was Bill Clinton was being a naughty boy. Like, that's the only thing I knew. You know what I'm saying? It was a time, in my opinion, of innocence. Like, you had cell phones, but they were like the most old-fashioned flip phone type things ever. The cell phones couldn't go on the internet. You had dial-up. There was no social media. People was not zombies looking at their phones. People wasn't arguing online about politics or like, the MCU, Star Trek, Superman. Like seriously, the new Superman movie just came out, and you got the Snyder Bros on one side, you got the James Gunn fans on the others, and then you got the DC fans in the middle, and everybody's just fighting with everybody. Like heck, I even got into like a little bit of an argument with my friend today because like I called him a Snyder bro and they got pissed and everything. But it was a good time, and for the most part it was peaceful. We wasn't at war with nobody. Everybody for the most part got along and everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like I look at Gen Z now and I look at millennials now, and all I can think of is that they've never known peace. Never. Since like I went to college my first year, 9/11 hit, and then it just all went down after that. And like people just started getting angrier and angrier. We was at war, a recession, a pandemic that just happened. People won't agree on politics. These young people who get on TikTok and act stupid and everything, they have never known peace in their life. You know what I'm saying? They have never known true tranquility in their life. And I miss the good days of the 90s. Ah, God, I miss the good days of the 90s. I'm going off track because, damn it, I just miss it. You know what I'm saying? I just miss the peace and everything. But anyways, and so like she wants to go looking for the timer, but Professor won't let, well, no, Rembrandt won't let her, and she thinks it's because she's a female, and and so like he's just like, I'm faster and whatever, but he's older, so how faster can he be? But anyways, he goes, like, I think he goes looking for like the timer, and no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Crap. I'm getting ahead of myself. I forgot about the park ranger. So, all of a sudden, a woman just shows up, and she's a park ranger. And that's all her name is, park ranger and everything. Now, the actress, I believe her name is Alexandria, something with a P. I forget what it is. Petlin or something like that. This was actually her second acting role, and it kind of shows. She's okay, and she's passable for the most part, and she does a pretty good job. It's just sometimes she puts certain emphasis on certain words, and you can tell she's a rookie and everything, and this is like she's new to acting. But for the most part, she does a pretty like good job in my opinion. But just like that other woman from the beginning of the episode, her acting career also did not last very long. Actually, I was wondering what the heck happened to her, so I decided to look her up. And wait, maybe her name's not Alexandra, maybe it's Alicia Zandria or something like that. But anyway, she's a photographer now, and she's been doing that for 40 years. Chopped her hair really short, and she has her own website, or at least Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And yeah, I can still tell that's her, even though it's been many years, because the structure of her face, I can still tell it's her. But yeah, she's like a photographer now. And so like, and that's just how the entertainment world is. You can do some bit parts here and there, but it might not always last long. It's just like with those Disney kids. You're famous one day on Disney Channel, but once you leave, that's probably it, and you need to save your money. And so like she's angry and she's pissed at them because she thinks they're poachers, and they keep trying to tell her they're not poachers and this and that. And then Rembrandt touches her, but his hand goes completely through her, and it's kind of like, what the world is going on this world? Like, I'm pretty sure that dinosaur was real and everything. Like, was the dinosaur a hologram too? No, she is. She explains that like there's no way you can have a real person get into like this wildlife preservative without getting eaten by a dinosaur, so you have to send a hologram in. And the professor, he's like, so that's how like dinosaurs survive the twilight. They're placed on an endangered species list, similar to how the cheetahs was in real life. Because in case you didn't know, the cheetah was on the endangered species list. Their numbers were dying out. They were mating with their cousins, and it caused their gene pool to like become inferior. I think they're okay now. I would hate if the cheetah is gone. That's my favorite animal. But yeah. I remember I watched a show on PBS called Kratts Creatures, and I just fell in love with cheetahs after that day. And I think it's the first time I ever saw a cheetah and everything on television. Anyway, so like, she's a really rude person. And I remember when I first watched this episode, I'm thinking to myself, is she a hologram like the Doctor from Star Trek Voyager, who's like an AI and has his own thoughts and personalities? Or is she just a person standing in a tube and is deflecting her hologram from many miles away? Well, it's an actual AI hologram. AI, man, they was really thinking of something on Sliders. holograms, AI, and now look what we got. We got holograms for like dead singers and everything, and we have AI that people will not stop using. And so like it makes me wonder what the real life park ranger personality is like. Most likely it's probably like hers, just scan her brain waves and stuff like that. But she's a very feisty like woman and everything, and she's not believing a word they're saying. But then she told them, your partner's dead and everything because she saw his remains, but she can't make them out because they're all mangled and everything. This is what sends Wade to want to go and look for Quinn, but Rembrandt went instead. And so, like the professor, he's hurting in this episode. He's constantly sitting down. He's on like, a crotch type stick. And like, he twisted his ankle bad. And John did a phenomenal job acting like, he's in really dire like situation because it's starting to swell. He's getting a fever. He needs to go to like a hospital and everything. People don't seem to understand just how bad the human body is if you break this or cut that. Like, I didn't know either. Like, I think her name was Jaja Gavor or something like that. What was that show she was on? Was it something Hillbillies? The Beverly Hillbillies, something like that. She was in a car accident. I think she got like a staph infection or a cut. Some part of her limbs had to be amputated, and she was in bad shape till the day she died. And if you ever watched a show wrestling called WCW, Buff Bagwell was in a car accident. Something happened to him last year in that car accident to where his leg now has to be amputated. So the professor was in bad diet, like, strength and everything. Like, he could have got like gangrene set in or something. So like Rembrandt is like looking for Quinn, but here comes the dinosaur. And then like all of a sudden I think Wade came to get him, and then when he came back, all of a sudden there is a man there with a rifle, a poacher. Now the actor who played the poacher, Jack Keller, may he rest in peace. I had no idea this dude was in a show I watched called The Man in the High Castle. And that's a show about what if America and Britain and UK lost World War II. And it's a really good show. It's on Amazon Prime. I think it lasted for like 4 seasons. It deals with alternate dimensions and stuff because they do travel at one point to like another. They do travel to our world and everything. First 3 seasons are great. 4th season is crap. Anyway, Jack did a phenomenal job in this. I really truly believe he was like a hick poacher and everything and stuff like that. Now the poacher dude is very interesting. All he wants is to get his skins and teeth and like pheromones and everything off like San Francisco, because all of San Francisco is like a wildlife extinction like program facility and everything. And so, like, where the dinosaurs be at. Now, we don't get to see no other dinosaurs except for the Allosaurus, but we get mentioned other dinosaurs and stuff. And so, like, he is basically like, look, man, I scratch your back, you're gonna scratch mine. So I lost a couple of bullets shooting into that dinosaur trying to save your. No, crap, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Crap. Basically, he just wants his skins out of there. And the holograms all like, yo, you can't do that, think about the dinosaurs, blah, 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 blah. He has a device that shuts her off, a jamming frequency type thing. And so the sliders think it over, and they decide, they're not going to help this guy out. They're just going to wait for maybe like a helicopter to come get them if the park ranger can arrange it. But the thing is, the park ranger does not want to arrange it because she wants to arrange it to get them out because she knows if she don't get them out, they will help the poacher. But the people that she works for, they will not send the helicopter in because it disturbs the dinosaurs and everything. And so the Sliders are in a bad shape. You know, the professor's in a bad shape. They can't find Quinn. They don't have the timer. And like, now they dealing with a dude who has a weapon on them. And so they realize, okay, if they wait for the park ranger in the helicopter, then they will go to jail and they will have to stand trial. But if they go with the poacher dude, then like, they could probably live in like, sanctuary or something like that because they help do this illegal thing. So he lets them know straight up, let him know what's going on in the morning. Don't try nothing because his gun has a hair trigger and he's a light sleeper. So basically they get his device, they turn it off, and they can't find the park ranger. This is when, what's her name? I think this is when Wade goes looking for Quinn. But yeah, the poacher did shoot at like the Allosaurus and everything. And he's upset that his partner died and stuff like that. But anyway, when she goes looking for Quinn, the park ranger goes out there to find her. Because the thing about the park ranger is this. Yes, he is a bad man. Yes, he poaches animals and stuff. And, like he's killing these living animals and things. But he loves humans more than he loves dinosaurs, and he will protect a human, even though he cannot stand the Sliders and everything. This is when Quinn shows up to kind of like distract the dinosaur. He gets Wade out of there. And so the poacher ends up getting gobbled up. Quinn, who has some type of like little metal device thing, like a little something as small as like a twig, he's able to take. Sorry about that, my camera died. Anyway, Quinn's able to get the lie detector, like, devices off their necks. And so they have to figure a way how they're going to get outside and get the timer because now the park rangers has re-shown. And so she lets them know that basically they can't get no helicopter, but she knows where the timer is. She tells them there's an hour left on there. And so they have to find a way to be able to get out and also get the professor out who still has a hurt ankle and avoid the dinosaur. So they come up with a pretty cool plan. Wade is going to have the repellents because they went through the poacher's stuff. They're going to use repellents and they're going to use a flare gun. And so she's going to use the rope to go up the cave of the mountain and everything, while the others go in when she gives them the clear, they're gonna go and make a run for it. And so I love this setup. It's dark, it's eerie, all you hear is wind rustling around, there's trees moving around. It's all this anticipation going on. You're wondering, okay, where is that dinosaur at? It's hunting them and everything. And so, she shoots the flares to go by the eye line of the dinosaur and everything. And so when Quinn finds the timer, he realizes it's not an hour. It's only a couple of minutes, 3 or something like that. I don't know how that hologram can't read numbers. So she teleports back into the cave and tells Rembrandt and the professor, you only got 3 minutes and everything. And so they're booking it and everything. It's the music is amping up. It's great. Wade, she's running through the woods and everything. And she hits the repellents on the tree. And so they activate the timer. They all jump in. The hologram is very shocked and surprised to see oh wow, they really was telling the truth and everything. And so as they go on the next world, we see hey, look, I can't pronounce this word. All my life, I can't pronounce it. People who research dinosaurs, archaeologists or something like that, they're they're uncovering dinosaur bones, and bam, the Sliders fall right into the display, and Quinn, falls on it, freaks out, and then he steps on a bone. Which is a big no-no for them and everything. And it just ends and stuff. And like I said before, this was such a fun episode. It was very adventurous. They had to go as cheap as possible to do like all the like the anticipation and like the fear, because they couldn't constantly use this CGI dinosaur because they just didn't have the money for it. So they used it sparingly, and they used it in the right amount of time. While you have the threat of the dinosaur lurking around in your mind, you have the threat of the hologram and the threat of the poacher, the threat of not having the timer, and the threat of not having Quinn, which they all said they're not leaving without him and everything. And so, like, I get it. They didn't have the budget. I can appreciate what they did. They still made it terrifying. They still put you on the edge of your seat when they had really no means to to pull off an actual Jurassic Park. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you do good like television storytelling. Like, you don't always need a big budget to do something. Sometimes having just like a little bit of a budget, a little bit of resources, and a big imagination and some adaptation can really make like an episode worthwhile and everything. Now, there's one bit of dialogue that I did leave out the review. And that is between the professor and Wade when they have the truth callers on. And the hologram is in the cave and stuff like that. They're talking about Quinn and what they admire about him and stuff like that. And the professor is going on about how this first year student, corrected his mistake. And at first he didn't like it because he thought what does this young person know? I'm right, he's wrong. And turns out he was actually right, Quinn and everything, and the professor was wrong. And it was from that moment he started to admire Quinn because of how smart and intelligent he is. And all I could think of now that I know this is out of order is, either this is the real professor or something very similar happened on their world and everything. Because, that's how normally it was in the beginning. Things were very similar. And Wade talked about how she had the hugest crush on him. Now, side note, it's funny that they bring this up because in actuality, Jerry and Sabrina were like roommates in like an apartment in Canada when they filmed this show. And I believe she said she used to have a crush on him back in the day and stuff. As you can see, they are not together. He's married to somebody else. I'm not sure if she's married. I believe she has an adoptive kid from like Africa. And Jerry has like twin girls with the actress who played Mystique in the X-Men movies. Why didn't they pursue anything? Heck if I know. But when you hear about Jerry and some of the women he's been with, mainly that Spice Girl and that woman from E! News and what happened between them, it's probably a good idea they never dated and stuff.